There may be discussion about where that model started and how services used to be for seniors years ago and then how they're evolving today. This was generated, truthfully, because there had been some difficulties, particularly 2 years ago, with the senior centers and their applications and people worrying about whether they were too small and the directors overwhelmed with all sorts of things, or where things fit in the community, how to help the senior centers. And then that broadened, of course, to a look at what are all the services our seniors in our community, people are passionate about making sure that our seniors are taken care of. And so what has evolved in services for seniors in our community, and how are we dealing with it now, and kind of where's it going? So the idea of a collaborative approach, and I give Councilman Padilla and Councilwoman Alcala, who's on Zoom today, both really drove that conversation about let's have a focus on senior services. And so the idea was we will have Brett Martin from United Way and, help me with your name real quick, Ian. Susan Harris from JAAA lead us off with just some conversation and kind of some status setting. And then we'll welcome the engagement of everyone who's here. We have a pretty good group in-house live and a really good group online as well. In terms of arrangements for the day, I think we are spaced well enough that those of us who are up front will be able to unmask when we're speaking. We've got enough distance on the podium that if people come to the podium to speak, you'll be able to unmask and then remask in terms of reseating. With that, I'd like to have the committee and speakers self-introduce, and then we'll go around just so everybody knows who's here and start our session. I'm Karen Hiller. I'm the councilwoman from District 1 and the committee chair.
Mike Padilla, Council District 5.
You want me to say me?
Yes.
You want me to wait?
Say me?
Yes.
Christina Valdivia Alvarado, Councilwoman from District 2, and I apologize by Zoom, but I'm on grandmother duty today.
Thank you. You too, and then we'll go around.
Go ahead.
Susan Harris with the Jayhawk Area Agency on Aging.
Brett Martin with United Way of Greater Topeka.
Okay, and with that, I don't know if everybody can see, maybe I'll just call names. Joanne?
Yes.
Introduce yourself and who you're with for everyone.
Okay, Joanne Tate. I am the grant writer for SOI, formerly Sheltered Living.
Okay, Karen?
Good morning, Karen Streeter. I'm the Vice President for Development at SOI.
Julie?
Good morning, I'm Julie Nielsen. I'm with Legend Senior Living at Capitol Ridge.
Wonderful. Trey?
Ray George with Topeka Housing Authority.
Kathleen?
I'm Kathleen Watson. I'm an attorney with Kansas Legal Services.
Christine?
I'm Christine Reimer with Kansas Housing Resources. I'm in the Division of Community Services.
Kate? Kate is frozen, I think. There you go.
Kate Clemens, Grace Home Care.
Thank you. And Ms. Cohen?
I am Candace Cohen. I am the administrator, but I'm also a social worker over at Plaza West here in Topeka.
Thank you. Jessica?
I'm Jessica Lynn here with United Way of Greater Topeka.
Kevin?
Kevin Burton, Boys and Girls Club of Topeka.
Well, pop up, I guess. Janice?
Janice Watkins, Topeka Habitat for Humanity.
Thank you. Maria?
That's actually me, but that's Shyla with CRC. She's using mine.
Okay.
Good magic trick. That's impressive.
I can be
Because we're coming and going here. All right. Katie?
Social Services Director at Plaza West here in Topeka.
Thank you. Heidi? Can you unmute?
Sorry, I just stepped away for a minute. This is Kim Williams, Meals on Wheels Coordinator, and Heidi Pickerel, Vice President of Senior Services for Midland Care.
Okay, and Dawn? Can you unmute, Dawn?
Good morning, Bobby Williams, Boys and Girls Club.
Okay. Looks like we've got somebody else coming in. Katie? Oh, still hooking up. All right. Ms. Williams? All right, well, we'll come back. Start.
Tiffany Jarvis with Community Action.
Thank you. Deb?
Deborah Dawkins, East Topeka Senior Center.
Maria Reese, Community Resources Council.
Kathy Votal, Lilac Senior Center. Deputy Papatsmatic Senior Center. Ronnie Villa, representative of Lilac Senior Center.
Okay.
Megan Skaggs, I'm the new director of Shawnee County Medical Society Health Access.
All right.
Deborah Owens, Breakthrough House.
Great.
Stephen Robinson, Breakthrough House.
Okay. Back row?
Sergeant Clan, Police Behavioral Health Unit.
Rich House, City Manager.
Lori Ray, Funding Services.
Thank you all. And do we have Ms. Williams on?
It looks like they may be connected now. Kay Williams.
Kay Williams, introduce. Okay, well, the word is that's Kim Williams with Meals on Wheels. We'll get started. Hi, Kim. All right. If I could pass the baton to Brett Martin to kind of get us rolling.
Welcome. Thanks to everyone for being here and some conversations that we've had as vendor for the social services grants for the city of Topeka, along with conversations that have been taking place over the last now 26 weeks during the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, during our COVID-19 response and coordination meetings on Tuesday afternoons, where many of you are present. We've had lots of opportunity to talk about collaboration, to talk about ways to share resources. Many of us have changed the way that we do our work. Additionally, a number of organizations like ours are looking at strategic plans and are looking at ways to position ourselves differently in the next period of time, whatever that looks like, whether it's 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, or 4 years. And so in the conversations that we had with Councilwoman Hiller, we thought it might be a good idea to gather those agencies and programs together who are providing services to seniors, to talk a little bit about the landscape and to talk about sort of what our ideal situation might look like. So that's kind of where we are. Susan, do you want to add to that as well?
Yeah. And I would like to add, with the Jayhawk Area Agency on Aging, we are one of the funding entities for older adults funding. We receive funding through the federal government through the Older Americans Act. And right now we are getting ready to go into planning processes for our new 4-year cycle. So we have an opportunity that we can change or revise or revisit services that we potentially fund now, add some additional services. So that's another big reason for this meeting, is to kind of have discussions on, what challenges you're seeing now, what things that you're seeing for older adults that may not be adequately funded or provided, that we may need to look at as a community to funneling more funding into those services. Excuse me.
Thank you. Well, were you going to do a little more kind of laying the land for conversation here?
So what we'd like to do is we'd like to ask really these two questions, and the first one is the one that Susan posed, which is what are some challenges that you are experiencing as an agency or a program, or what are some changes that you're seeing in the landscape? What we want to do is provide opportunity for you to be able to share those challenges or some of those changes, recognizing we have a lot of folks in the physical room and also in our virtual room. So individuals who are here present can approach the podium to do that, and then we'll also call on folks on the screen. Is that the best way to do that?
Sounds great.
Okay, very good.
And I'd like to offer the chance for the senior centers to start, if you'd like.
I'll go. Everybody raise their hand on.
Again, Deborah Dawkins, East Topeka Senior Center. Especially during COVID and as we move beyond, because we don't seem to know what the end or what the landscape looks like in the future, technology is the biggest challenge that we're having right now. In order to continue our services, our seniors are back in the building. One example is they were previously, we have a partnership with Washburn University where our seniors were attending twice a week for exercise. We know that keeping our seniors physically active is a big part of our ultimate goal, to keep them in their homes as long as possible and living out their lives with dignity. And so our focus has been on eating right and keeping them physically active to keep them going. Washburn had come up with a plan to maybe bring them in smaller groups to try to keep them safe, and after looking that over, they determined that they didn't want to take the risk of bringing them in at all. So starting on Monday, they'll be doing the exercise via Zoom. And so we have a smart TV, and I thought that we would be able to download the Zoom app onto the TV, but that's not happening. So we still have to have the computer or whatever, but that's just one of the challenges, is bringing the technology so that we can keep engaged with the seniors and keep them safe. The other big thing is the cleaning aspect of keeping the building clean. We had to hire, we had a person who was a part-time an employee that would clean first thing in the morning and, in the evening, but due to what the fear is now, there's a constant cleaning that we do. And so we have someone that we hired specifically to clean every hour and go in the bathrooms and all of those kinds of things. So for us, that has been the biggest challenge during this time. Also, again, with the senior center model, we don't have a lot of extra staff. So, if we don't have the funds to hire somebody, that means executive directors are becoming custodians. And on top of having to worry about finding new funds and all of those kinds of things. So that's always, I think, been the biggest challenge with the senior center model, is that, and then, just having to fundraise to get our own salaries, because we don't charge fees for the seniors to come to the senior center. So we have no way of making money other than through grants or through fundraisers. So figuring out a way to be funded and to not have an application rejected because we asked for our salaries in the application instead of direct services, because our salary is the direct service as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Thank you so much. And
I have a question, Chair, for Ms. Dawkins.
Go right ahead.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
All right, and you?
I'm doing well. I do have a couple of questions. I want to drill down a little bit deeper into the Zoom issues that you're having. So you said that you are having your seniors come in but are they only coming in so many days a week? Because then you're also talking about this Zoom exercise program that will be offered to seniors at their homes. Is that correct? Is that what you're working on?
No, actually, now there is an opportunity, we hope, that those who don't want to come to the senior center can log in. But presently, since our seniors are coming, starting next week, they'll be there every day of the week. It's just that we will have the screen and the Washburn students will be performing the exercise class via the screen.
Okay, I get it. And so does it look like it's not going to be able to take place because of the technological difficulties that we're having right now? It's going to have to be put off?
I think we'll be able to make it work. I did a test Zoom on my TV yesterday. The other problem we're having, of course, is because we're in the community center, we're using the community center's wireless connection, and sometimes that gets bogged down. And so, because presently we've, on Thursdays, been doing a cardio drumming exercise via the video. And we found, especially when Stephen Massey and his young people were in the building too, that we'd be in the middle of the exercise and it would start spinning, and, you know, it becomes a little disconcerting when you're in the middle with a drum in your hand, drumstick in your hand, and you have to stop. And so, we have, right now, Parks and Rec, the county is out there seeing what they can do to sort of minimize the use of the Wi-Fi, but that may be an ultimate expense that we have to incur, which would be to get our own internet service, and rather that way it would be exclusively for the seniors and not for the whole community center.
Okay, and do you see any capacity in the future to tap into any type of volunteer base across the city where there may be staff shortages?
I would love to do that, yes.
Okay, and I'm not sure what all that volunteering capacity may be, but that's certainly something, you know, to consider. But I did have one more question. The time period that y'all were closed down until you started having seniors come in again, what were you hearing from them as some of the struggles in relief of being back in the center? Struggle with not being in the centers and having that camaraderie, but then the relief with being back. What were some of the basic comments that you were hearing?
Basically the loneliness and the being stuck in the house that we all experience, not just the seniors, but especially if you live alone and you're not having contact with others. My seniors got on each other and they created their own network on Facebook and with phone calls, and so they would call and check on each other you know, on a daily basis, as well as our staff was calling and checking on them. But that was the biggest concern. And then we still have some who have not returned because they are still concerned when they hear, you know, the numbers rising. They're still, and the bus, you know, since we're in the COVID realm, rather than being able to have full capacity on the bus, we're only putting 6 plus a wheelchair so that nobody is sitting next to anyone. So, you know, getting there and the camaraderie. Once they come back, they love it. I haven't had any problems with my seniors being willing to wear their mask. I mean, none of us like it, but they don't want to get sick. And so they wear their mask, and if somebody doesn't have on one, they get on them right away. They've learned how to not hug and, you know, to do the hand taps. And so basically, I am pleased that our seniors have adjusted to the new norm.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Thank you for all the work that you do.
Yes, sir.
If I may.
Yes, Councilman Padilla.
You mentioned something, and I'm interested in it, and I think it's something that is not uncommon right now during a lot of this self-quarantining, mental health,
yes,
depression. As part of your programming, do you have programs that seek to assist the participants in coping with that. I like what you said, where they kind of got together and did their own thing, and that's very encouraging. But having a professional guide that work, and I'm just wondering about that.
And prior to the outbreak, I was involved with the Shawnee County, through the Greater Topeka Partnership, I guess, the Shawnee County model of mental health. And we were actually going to be a starting point for having a collaborative effort where, say, Vallejo or something would come out and do an assessment to determine if somebody may be on the brink of the depression, and then have some kind of intervention. I would love, and I was considering maybe with Washburn and their Bonner or program, maybe finding a student who is majoring in that, who could come out, because we really don't have, even if someone came and did the assessment, we don't have the case management skills to refer them on and follow up. And so we would definitely need a partner for the case management. I do have a couple of seniors who are on the, the beginning stages of dementia, and working with their family has become a challenge. I can refer them on to the Alzheimer's Association and everything, but it is difficult to see, and then for the other seniors to recognize that this person's not acting out or not deliberately not taking care of themselves. They're just diminishing in their mental capacity. So that mental health piece, and having someone who could be on staff to handle that case management. Again, with the senior model here in Topeka, we don't have that capability. So that would be most helpful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. I had note that Karen wanted to speak. Was it to ask questions about the senior centers?
It was to talk about senior issues.
Okay, I want to let the centers go first, and then you'll be next up. Thanks.
Okay.
I'm Kathy Vota with LULAC Senior Center. And as Deborah was talking, I was sitting there jotting some notes down. And one of the things that I've noticed is that seniors are living longer. They are living longer, and that's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing because it puts families in tremendous crisis for respite care. Senior centers are not set up to dispense medication, to babysit, and therefore families are having a terrible time. I mean, they're still working. They've got aging parents. They're having to go to umpteen medical appointments. They're calling and they're needing a place for mom or dad or grandma or grandpa to go for a few hours until the kids get done with school or whatever. And I've had to turn several away because I don't have not only the staff or the nursing background or the experience to be able to deal with these folks. And what happens to them is they just fall through the cracks. They literally fall through the cracks. So respite care that is affordable is something that's really needed in this town. You know, there are a couple of places, but it takes all their money. It takes all their Social Security checks. So that's the one thing that I'm seeing. That's a really big challenge to me. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and so it's real difficult for me to have to tell somebody who's desperately on the other end of the phone, I'm so very sorry, but I can't make sure your dad gets his pills every 2 hours. You know, it just doesn't work like that here at the senior center. So that's a huge challenge in our community. The changes for us have been slow and steady at LULAC. We opened back up on the 10th of June, and believe it or not, the oldest folks that I have at the senior center came back first because they had no fear. They really had no fear. They've been through everything else, and it's like, we're not afraid. It has been challenging. I did buy a fogger for the building because I could not keep up with the cleaning. And so we sanitize 3 times a week. We fog. It's like a bug sprayer all over our building, and you really can't be in there because it does kind of burn your eyes. It was the best $300 investment I ever made. I was able to get it online before they sold out, I believe. We have had tremendous donations, and we're lucky in that way that we have a lot of folks that support our senior centers. So we've gotten all different kinds of masks, from cloth to paper to face shields. It was very difficult in the beginning to get my people to wear them because they absolutely do not want me telling them what to do. They are 85 years old, and they let me know that all the time. Social distancing, we've got X amount of folks at a table. And so over the course of, from June to July, I made the decision that I needed to drop down to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday full-time days. Tuesdays and Thursdays would allow us to run that fogger in there and keep things, you know, in check. I'm hoping that by October 1st, we're back in full swing. We've got 20 back right now. It is challenging, but everybody's kind of getting the hang of wearing a mask, and you know, I still get told off regularly when I try to tell them they need to space out a little bit. We do a lot of intergenerational things at LULAC. We're in our 4th year partnership with the Shawnee Heights High School in the Seniors Learning from Seniors program. And that program is intergenerational, where the high school seniors and the college comp class come to our center each semester. We have 60 kids that come. It's a requirement of their class that they intermesh with our folks. We do a lot of interactive activities. They talk about what it was like when they were in school, and then we end up with karaoke, something to lighten the mood before they start programming my seniors' phones. Literally, that happens all the time. Julie Coulter, who's the instructor there, said in her whole teaching career that this program, since its inception, she has received the best college paper or comp papers that she's ever got in her teaching career. That being said, our internet service at the Senior Center with Cox is outrageous. Yes.
It is absolutely outrageous. And I would like to be able to increase not only the speed of the internet, but we have Wi-Fi for up to, I don't know, 85 people, which isn't really a lot when you've got people that do homebound deliveries for Meals on Wheels, and everybody's got a smartphone anymore, and everybody's zapping the Wi-Fi. And also to be able to do a hotspot for some of the kids. You know, there's a lot of kids over in the Oakland neighborhood. We've talked, the board has batted it back and forth about doing some hotspot things and being able to bring we have the grade school that comes down and does different little programs for us, but to be able to offer them up a place to come, maybe to do some homework or to do something to get away from maybe chaos at home. So that is one thing to maybe enhance our intergenerational services a little bit more. On mental health services, we started doing that a couple of years ago, actually. I partnered up with Midland. We did grief counseling, and we had one of their staff come over and do grief counseling because
quite honestly, when you get a lot of folks in a senior center and you live in a city this size, there's a lot of tragedy. There's a lot of grandchildren that have gotten murdered, spouses that have passed away. And during a 1 week span, we had 4 tremendous losses at our senior center, and everybody was just crying. Everybody was just sad. And so I made a call to Midland, and we've done that. We've also brought in Dr. Bob, and his last name slips my mind, but he is a psychiatrist here in town. He is retired. He was coming before COVID and offering presentations on post-traumatic stress, on various things. We had him at the center every Friday for several Fridays in a row, and he would go through different exercises with them. Of course, he wasn't paid. And that kind of was an issue that he would volunteer for 3 months, and I would look at trying to find some type of way to pay for those services to continue. And lo and behold, in March, all this happened. So that's kind of where we're at LULAC presently. We are ever evolving over there. You have to ever evolve to be able to keep up with what is going on. There's always a lack of money. There's always a lack of funding. But there's not a lack of ideas at senior centers. You know, you have to keep up with not only your folks, but what's going on in the community. So, that being said, I don't have anything. Okay.
Councilman?
Can I, Chair?
Mike had his hand up too. I'm sorry. I'll try and be better at making sure I get to it. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Ms. Dawkins referred to it in her presentation, transportation. Have you encountered increased difficulties in your transportation services for your participants at all? Being able to transport as many, or has the use gone up, down? What?
The board decided that it was beneficial to us to put 6 on a bus as well. And therefore, it takes several trips. I mean, I've got 2 drivers, and they make several trips. And as more folks come to the center, that is more trips in our area. So, yeah, for right now.
So your costs have gone up for fuel?
They have. Luckily, gas is still relatively low, lower. But, yeah, we're making average day. Both buses usually run about 3 to 4 trips, because we do pick up not only Oakland but everywhere else. So,
thank you.
Councilwoman?
Thank you, Chair. Kathy, I just want to say, you know, working with you in a number of ways, I see the commitment and the passion both that the seniors have towards being involved with LULAC and your staff and you with them. I think that it would be wonderful, this is just a wish, you know, that senior centers could come together, directors maybe, and bounce off each other, you know, their successes, some things that didn't work as well, especially as we are going to continue to see the need for your services and the need for you all to stay in place in that familiar units where, you know, where you provide your services. And I think that there is so much strength in the senior centers already, but putting you together in a room and having some kind of coordination, how we can make things better, differing ideas. I'm always a big proponent for implementing art too as mental health. And what you have done with intergenerational services is something that I think all senior centers should try to dabble in, because it's a commitment that our young folks need to understand that they need to have to elders in their community, and elders also being able to interact with young folks and provide in many, many circumstances that wisdom that they are just waiting to be asked about and for. So again, thank you for all you do as well.
Thank you.
I've got a question, and maybe you can get back to Deb too when there's time, but if you could give an idea of how many people are enrolled in your center and how many come on how many used to come on an average daily basis. Obviously we're changing now, and what you mentioned a little bit, but what your service area is, whether it's just neighborhood based or whether it's community wide or even bigger.
Okay, so we are not neighborhood based. We pick up all the way to 29th and Urish Road, all the way to 29th and Croco, south to 47th Street, north to 41st, I think it is, or 42nd. We have the majority of our folks, surprisingly, on the west side of town coming. We get a lot of Oakland folks that drive themselves, but our pickups are really on the west side of town. What was the other thing you wanted? The amount of folks? Yeah. Okay. So we have different components of people that belong to LULAC in different capacities. We do the CSFP commodity program there, over 60 program. We do the K-State Shawnee County Extension gardening program over there, nutrition program. We do the Shawnee Heights thing. We do senior computer classes that we have been doing for 4 years that are free to seniors 60 and older. So we have different folks in different little pods. Currently we have 286 active seniors at LULAC. Right now we have 20, we are up to 20 that are there. I have about 17 that are waiting because I can't take any more right now. I have done referrals to the other two senior centers, and I mean I can't take any more people. So with the COVID and trying to keep up with everything, we're pretty active. And therefore, I believe that that is the draw for us, is that there is something going on all of the time. And to be honest with you, when I get to a senior center capacity my own self, I want to go to. You know, if someone says, you can't drive anymore, then by God, I'm going to find somebody that's going to drive me. And I'm going to go. And I'm going to go to the casino, and I'm going to go shopping at the thrift stores, and I'm going to do whatever I can do. So I think that is what comes back for us and the folks that come there. I believe that we will continue to see an increase in people, and for the very reason that there is several things happening over there. Our people that come and pick up commodities on any given day will want to stay if there's something going on. You know, we do lists of our activities, and once they're full, then we can't do anything anymore. But we're doing a COVID crazy happy hour this afternoon at the senior center, and they are getting non-alcoholic drinks, and they're getting henna tattoos. And we've got a maximum, of course, of 45 people that we're allowed to have in there, but we've got to keep them all spaced out. I had 2 calls today wanting to know if they could come over for that, and I had to tell them no, because we're in the middle of this. So it just depends on what kooky things we've got happening, and on any given day when folks want to be there. Usually we have between 20 and 30 and sometimes more in ordinary times at our senior center.
Thank you. That's gives some framework for what you're doing. Thank you so much. Are there questions, or I don't mean to leave everybody out. We really, as a committee, wanted to learn, but to have a shared experience. Okay, maybe if I can get Deb to come back and fill in that background, and then we'll have Debbie come up.
The last I checked, pre-COVID, we had about 400 on our roll, and as Kathy said, that's in different capacities. We offer door-to-door medical transportation for all of Shawnee County. So that includes our clients that we provide transportation to medical appointments and to dialysis. Then we have about 140 who come for their commodity drop-off and pick-up. And so actually that attend, and it depends. Right now, we're really only having people come on the day that they're interested in that, so that they're not just sitting around. And so we probably have 15 to 20 per day, but not the same 15 or 20 every day, because it depends on what the activity is being offered. So it's kind of hard to say hard and fast 30, 40 people, because it depends on, like Kathy says, it depends on what they're interested in and what we're offering. But we make everybody fill out a UPR, so on our list we have about, a lot of people have died and moved, and so probably about 350 to 400 right now.
And of those, if I can follow up, how many of them are transportation only?
Oh, for medical? I would say about 100.
And some of the others use the transportation and the other programming?
Yes.
And just because I've been around for a while, but I don't know all these details, is that focus at your center on the medical transportation something that emerged out of those conversations some years ago when there was a lot of conversation about combining transportation services and so on?
That really predates me. And so maybe the other two who have been involved longer know. But as far as I know, from our inception, we were providing medical transportation to all of Shawnee County. And so I think that has just blossomed. And in fact, I was even before, of course, before COVID, I mean, we all need to say pre-COVID, whatever, even talking with the young lady who operates the Senior Center Services Center in Lawrence about how we could maybe meet on the border, because she has people that wants to come to Topeka, and we have people who want to go to, say, KU Med, and we're not allowed to go over the Shawnee County line. So trying to figure out a way that we could get them to a certain point, and then also maybe, because we go in Rossville or something so often, to maybe try to coordinate with a place in Rossville that will say this is the day that we go to Rossville, because that really takes us out of the route and do that. But medical transportation is a major part of our operations.
And I think you probably know, do the other centers do medical transportation, or are you the only one right now?
They do. I know that Pappins is very limited in the scope. We partner with Pappins to schedule some people, but they're in a small window. We don't take people to appointments before 9 o'clock. And so if we had a 9 o'clock appointment and Pappins had a driver, we would call and schedule for, and that's part of our cooperation.
Partnership.
Yeah, partnership. But they're only like from 9 to 12, right, Debbie? And so that is very limited, but yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next, Debbie Lake from Pathans.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Without repeating a lot of that's already been said, I'll try to make it short and sweet. At this present time, we are serving about 12 to 15 daily. We're still limiting 15 because of COVID. They've been very good at that. A lot of our seniors don't want to come back at this time, and we're keeping in contact daily with our seniors. We call them, talk to them, make sure that they're doing okay, make sure they're not depressed. We also used to have Vallejo come and do depression and assessments a few years ago, and then Vallejo lost that funding, and they no longer come out and do that kind of thing. We haven't started or checked into that since we've been back. Since COVID, life has been a barrel of peaches. Keeping our seniors active and busy without them being too close, and we can keep them distant, keep them safe, has been a real challenge. Cleaning, we disinfect every day. Every day. It's crazy, but we do. The seniors, some of them do follow the rules very well and do what they're supposed to do, and then others, it goes in one ear and out the other, and they could care less. So we're trying to really keep them safe. We haven't been doing medical transportation only for people that are part of our center, and instead of scheduling with East Topeka, they're at our center where it's easier just to, if we're picking them up and they're coming, we just take them, do their medical thing, and bring them back. That's the way we've been doing it since the COVID. So we are still doing some medical, but it's limited. We've limited our transportation services because we don't do as many trips as we were doing because of COVID. It's been a real challenge. Us too, one of the things that we're facing is funds. We have limited funds also. We have basic services through Cox, which I won't get on Cox today, but anyway. So we don't have any of this stuff in our room where the activities are, and that's the one thing that we've discussed since we've been back and we opened back up in July, is that we would love to have the technology to get them active through Zooms and different activities that way, but we're doing the best we can with what we've got. It has been very interesting. It's been very fun, very exciting. As Deborah and Kathy both said, staff is limited, very limited. So to spend our time with the seniors and trying to come up with ideas, because we play a lot of mind games as well to keep their minds active and stuff, it takes a lot of time out of the staff's normal way of doing things. We don't have an activities director. We wear many hats, each one of us. So if I have to stop what I'm doing because some of our staff is gone, then some of my work falls behind, and it's been kind of crazy. But anyway, we learn how to deal with those things and to go on. It's just, we're just plugging along. I don't know what else to say. You know, we serve about 154 people total, but that again is in different services as well. So life goes on. We still are doing some home visitation, very little, because people don't want people coming into their homes. So we're trying to keep things moving as best we can.
Okay.
I have a quick question, Chair. Hi, Debbie. How are you?
I'm good.
I'm just wondering, you know, when you're talking about having no director for activities and being so short on money, if, you know, obviously that's something that I will be drilling into and seeing if there's any way that, you know, we may be able to assist. But I'm thinking with all of the organizations that we have that are involved in this meeting today, and also continuing to think about Washburn and internships, you know, maybe folks, students that are involved in geriatrics, et cetera. I don't know what degree that comes under, nursing or whatever, but being able to get you lined up with someone that can come in and, you know, maybe do a semester of event, you know, planning events there, or, you know, utilizing VHS or CDs to do basic exercises, etc., until more dollars can be put into getting you the technology, you know, that you all are deserving of. But those are a couple of things that just came to mind right off the bat from hearing you, and I'm sure that we'll be talking about it more in the future. And again, thank you for all you do.
We've actually just discussed that because we thought that it would be, during this time, a good idea to bring somebody in that could actually teach the seniors how to use their cell phones to do those Zoom things with their families, their friends, and participate that way, do those calls where they could see face-to-face, and you know, a lot of the time is just sitting and talking to the seniors. The seniors miss that. They're so isolated anyway, most of them. And just to sit down and try to talk with them and stuff, your conversations could go on for hours, especially if they are depressed or crying, and just lost a loved one or going through whatever, or their grandchildren live with them and their grandchildren are driving them crazy. And, you know, we listen to all that. We listen to it. We're family. That's what we always say, is we're family there. So we... Well,
and as I told you too, the one, when I came down there and did the crafts with them, I'm definitely open to doing that, especially during the winter months. So keep me in mind for that, and I'll be in touch, because it was wonderful to be able to spend some time with them.
They are really into the art and crafts right now, especially the art, the paintings and stuff. They're really into that because that's something they can do sitting far apart, and they don't have to be together to do it. So it's working.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
Councilman.
Thank you. Following up, and Ms. Valdea and myself are having a shared moment there, thinking about the activities director and your thoughts about having a collaboration maybe with an intern or somebody at Washburn. You know, that's one resource. I would, and especially since you mentioned Arts Connect might be another
that's a good idea.
Collaboration. And what I'm, in my mind, I'm thinking, it sounds like you have shared challenges, and something like this could be a shared opportunity to have, say, Ms. Hiller come out, and that's her job, is for all the senior centers, that she sits down with staff, helps create an activities program and so forth, and then periodically stops in at those places to make sure that they're working well, or if they need adjustments or something, rather than just focusing on what your need is and what Ms. Dawkins or Kathy's need is, that you all have that shared need. So if we had a person who made the rounds, as it were, and shared their skills and abilities and brought in other collaborators, like maybe Arts Connect or others, because there are plenty of artists who would be more than willing to try and sit down and share some ideas and thoughts and give some basics. It's just something that I think it bears some attention to. So I'm glad you got that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, both of you, for that. As we open this up further, as I was listening, I was thinking that there had been COVID money for nonprofits to help accommodate for needs due to COVID, and maybe somebody else knows about that and can share it. I think this is a wonderful time, if we can, to feel free not only to talk about, as Brett laid out for us, challenges and changes, but also to share ideas. Feel free or to respond to something somebody else said about a need. So with that, Karen Streeter, do you want to pick up?
All right, am I unmuted now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. I think this is a really important conversation, and the reason that SLI wants to be involved in this conversation is that we truly believe that the unique needs of seniors with IDD are not being fully met within the existing senior center model. And, so we're strong advocates for seniors with IDD, and over 50% of the clients served by SLI are over the age of 50. I say the age of 50, and you'll understand why I say that in a moment. But we serve 77 clients every day who are seniors. And, it's a unique group to work with. SLI has been involved in this community for 50 years. We'll celebrate 50 years next year. We're kind of excited about that. And we're focused on making sure that persons with IDD receive the necessary services in the least restrictive environment possible. I think it's important to understand that for the first time in our history, millions of people across the world with IDD are now living into their senior years. Life expectancy for those with IDD has increased significantly due to advances in medication in the medical world. But a person with severe and moderate IDD will still only live into their late 60s, if that. Individuals with IDD experience high rates, intellectual and developmental disabilities, they experience high rates of medical and functional and psychosocial complications about 20 to 25 years sooner than persons aging without disabilities. So that means by the time a person reaches the age of 50, they're already showing the types of things that you would expect emotionally, mentally, physically from a person who is 70 to 75 without IDD. Another thing we need to remember is that over 900,000 people in the United States alone are over the age of 60, and they're caring for a person with IDD in their homes. And as these caregivers age, the importance of senior services for persons with IDD becomes even more paramount. Like all of the seniors that we're talking about today, persons with IDD struggle with serious challenges, but they're further complicated by the disease components of intellectual and developmental disabilities. For example, the lifetime usage of many of the drugs needed to manage those disease components in a person with IDD can often lead to early onset dementia as well as Alzheimer's. So I think that's important to understand as we have this conversation. It's important, like with all of our seniors, that seniors with IDD feel like they're part of a community and have consistency, and they can be seen, and they can be involved in those activities that are important to keep them having a strong quality of life. I just kind of want to share one thing, and I think it's important to understand for SLI, our clients, we were established as an essential organization from day one of the pandemic because persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities are at high risk due to coexisting health conditions. So our clients are still in their homes because it's not safe for those clients to go out into the community. Since day one, we have continued to provide senior services and other services for our clients in their homes, which has, significantly increased our cost from a staffing standpoint. It's outrageous when we look forward and realize that our cost to buy PPEs in a year because of COVID is going to be $260,000. That's a lot of money just to make sure that our staff and our clients are safe. We struggle with Wi-Fi connectivity as well. We don't have dedicated Wi-Fi in the homes for our clients just to use. And COVID has made it very clear that we really need to be able to do that. But that alone would add a cost of over $2,000 a month just to have Wi-Fi in each of our 21 homes in Topeka. So all of those factors are significant factors. And, I think it's important to kind of look at the issue of, we know that we have fabulous programs in Topeka providing services to seniors. But those programs are not necessarily prepared to serve persons with IDD. As I said before, our seniors begin showing active signs of aging by the age of 50. Many of the senior service programs have a requirement, they serve people that are 60 years and up. So that kind of eliminates them. More importantly, seniors with IDD have unique needs, and the staff at our senior centers are not necessarily trained to be able to work with the complex cognitive and behavioral, psychosocial, and health needs of persons with IDD. And the last thing that I would mention, and then I'd really just love to throw this to my colleague Joanne, just to talk to a real quick moment about our senior services specifically. But the biggest problem is the stigma that is associated with being a person living with a developmental and intellectual disability. All of us just want to be seen. All of us want to be respected. But it's really hurtful when persons with IDD try to get involved in programs and they're just not accepted like they should. And as far as we've come, and we know that our nation will work really hard, persons with IDD are still struggling to find inclusion and acceptance. And all of that has to be kept in mind as we think about how we serve seniors in our community. And I'd love to just real quick turn it over to Joanne so she can just talk to you just for a couple quick minutes about what we're doing right now specifically to meet the needs of our seniors. And thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Just to emphasize what Karen was saying is that, our goal and our concern is to address those gaps and challenges for our aging clients. They require long life services, they require extensive supports, and that's why it takes our staff that is being trained, and they go through multiple training modules every year so that they can stay up on all of the technical things that they need to know about in taking care of our clients. And the COVID has really created a lot of tension and stress and behavior issues with our clients. They don't understand why they can't go to the movie, why they can't go out and eat. They've been confined basically since the stay-at-home went into effect. And that's difficult for them to understand why they can't do that. Even visits from family is, that's got to be set up and critiqued, and so that they're not in contact with the other clients, because every one of our clients is a risk at this point. So what we have tried to do is keeping our day services in the homes, which has created a lot of extra hours and a lot of creativity in keeping our clients entertained and involved and being part of the community in some ways. So what we try to address with our aging is what are their needs? What are their desires? We have to realize that these individuals have different challenges, but they're still living a life just like you and I are. They feel the same that you feel. They love, they cry. There's nothing different about them as a human being. And I could talk for hours about that because I'm very passionate about, how our clients, when I've had a client that had come up and told me that, they really felt bad because somebody just sat there and stared at them, but wouldn't talk to them. And, that breaks my heart because they have feelings. So that's something we try to address when we're doing day services, is working with them on opportunities, listening to them. What are their wants? What are their desires? And that's what we want to try and help them with so that they can live a good life too. We have expanded some of our services. Now they've been kind of put on hold because of the COVID. So it makes it very difficult for them. The day service program allows them to stay in a program of their choice and promotes their aging in place. So consistency is a huge thing for our clients, and any change is a real upset for them, and that's where day services really comes in and where they can do the things they want. So we focus on the aging. We're finding where some of those individuals just want silent time, quiet time. And so with an aging program, we can help that and give them maybe a small group, or sometimes they just want to be by themselves, just like you and I want to be. We try to have daily activities that are appropriate for them and within their pace. The pace slows down when they become into that aging program. They don't want to do what a 30 and 40-year-old are doing now, or a 20-year-old. And we have a wide range. We have from 18 up to 80. So you've got to be able to accommodate all of those needs. So by reducing the noise and giving them private time, having safety monitoring, that's what our staff watches to make sure that they don't wander off or that they don't fall. Yes, that support staff is so important, that we have them there so that they can keep an eye on them and keep them safe. And then the last thing I want to talk about is having a retirement program. It's an appeal for families in the community, because some of our families, they keep their loved one at home as long as they can. And when it gets to the point where they can't care for them or they can't handle the behavior, then they're looking for opportunities. And that's when they come to SLI. And we want to be able to, as parents age, and they still have that loved one at home, that we have a program that will fit for them so that they're not just left out there in the cold.
I have several questions. I don't know if I get to talk or not.
If you would, yes, you can. If you would come to the mic so that everybody can hear you. Joanne? Uh-huh. While Kathy's coming up, could you clarify for us that these clients that you're talking about are people that have aged in your program? You're not typically bringing people new in over the age of 50, but these are clients that are either in your own residential settings or in their family settings that are aging with you?
Not necessarily. It's not necessarily all of our clients. We have clients that come to our day services that are not in our residential program. So it is open to anybody. Our day services, and then with moving into a retirement program, is open to anyone in the community. Karen, do you have anything to add to that?
No, you hit it over head.
So people can add into your program at an advanced age, not just
start
at a young age and age with you. Okay, thank you. Kathy.
Okay. First of all, I've never heard of you before, and it would be helpful to have information.
It used to be sheltered living. That's what most of us remember.
Okay.
And they went to SLI for some.
Okay, I did not have a clue.
Okay.
So sheltered living folks come to LULAC for some of the activities they did before COVID. But I was like, who is Shepherd Center? And
this is
SLI.
This is SLI.
SLI.
Yes. This is SLI, sheltered living.
Okay. All right. So I'm square. I'm straight. Okay, I'm straight. So I have a couple of questions. Number one, you spoke of addressing the needs how are you determining the needs, and is there a guideline of something that we could use at our senior centers to also help determine the need for your services? And then secondly, as I listen to you talk, I'm sitting there thinking you're identifying people that are 50 and older. Obviously, I'm there, been there. But I want to know, what are the signs of IDD? Because quite honestly, I had to ask someone what IDD was, because I didn't know in the beginning what you were speaking of. So you talk about over 50 and that folks are already showing the signs of it. What exactly are those signs, if you could clarify? And I would ask...
Talking about the typical signs of aging, so as it relates to mobility, as it relates to hearing, as it relates to, just kind of those general health conditions that we start struggling with as we get older, that it's much more accelerated due to the disease involved with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So, and it depends upon where they are. For example, persons with in the Down syndrome, the autism spectrum under Down syndrome, they start actually, their aging cycle begins in the 30s and are often barely living into their 50s due to disease component. And so you can have a 30-year-old who is having serious heart issues, serious respiratory issues, mobility issues, and it's very difficult for them to participate in things. Joanne, how would you answer that? And I apologize that I didn't clearly say what IDD was. That was an assumption on my part. But Sheltered Living has been serving in Topeka. We were actually the first residential program for persons, and that was established in 1972. And it came about because of deinstitutionalization at the federal level. And, the folks that we live with, yes, many have lived with us for 30, 35 years, but we're opening our doors every day to new and younger people with IDD. Okay. And I think the senior issue is it's especially hit us as we as an organization has aged. And the reason we changed our name is that Sheltered Living, it only spoke to the residential component of our program, and we're so much more. We do community integration, employment training. We do medical and health advocacy. We have a nurse that goes around and provides services daily to our clients. Okay. We have transportation. We do a variety of things. So Sheltered Living limited us in terms of who we are and what we do, and that's why it was shortened to SLI.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. We've opened the door to something that could obviously be a 2-hour session in and of itself, right? That was part of the idea. So, are there other folks who want to share their programming or raise issues or questions? I need to be able to see everybody, even though I like seeing Karen. Okay, any hands for others to participate? Or you may need to speak up if you're not video. There are a lot more dimensions to senior services. Let's see.
Hello, this is Julie with Legend Senior Living. Would this be an appropriate time to participate?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, my camera is going on and off and freezing, so I'm on my telephone. I wanted to share a few things I think are pertinent to this conversation that we've been seeing as a senior living, assisted living, and memory care facility. I think the two questions that were asked earlier are what are the challenges that we're seeing and changes that we're seeing in the landscape. The challenge that we're seeing, which directly relates to the senior centers, is our families want to keep their seniors safe. They want to keep their seniors healthy, well, and not open to, getting COVID or anything else at this point, which has created an enormous breakdown in their participation in the world. They're isolated. they're extremely lonesome. Even families are not going to see their own seniors in their own seniors' homes because they're trying to stop the spread of COVID. What that's doing is we're getting calls where my mom, my dad, he's been doing great, she's been living on her own, but she's so incredibly isolated right now that she is failing fast. She's going from being able to independently live to not independently live. We're seeing dietary deficiencies. People either are eating too much of the wrong things or they're just not interested in eating at all, not cooking for themselves. So that's creating a real challenge for these seniors that are living at home and are looking at assisted living a lot sooner than they would have been otherwise before COVID. The isolation is causing memory issues, cognitive issues, all sorts of things. Also, what we're seeing in the change of the landscape is a shift on both sides. We're seeing, like I said, families looking for assisted living sooner than they ever thought they would be to create this sense of community for their loved ones. We're also seeing, because of the workplace, so many people have either changed their working model to work from home or they've been told they're furloughed to the end of the year, which means if they have their loved ones in a facility, in a community like ours or in a residence, they may want to take them home because they can. They can be at home or they have the availability to share responsibilities between family members more so than they did when they originally made the decision to have their loved ones go into assisted living. So I wanted to share those points because that's what we're seeing probably more than anything during the last 26 weeks are those shifts. The other thing we're seeing is a spike in memory care requests. Our memory care is full, and it has been for quite some time, and it appears others in the community also must be because we get an awful lot of memory care requests, more so than we have seen in recent months and years.
Thank you so much. Any comments or questions for Julie? Okay, others?
Sorry, Chair. Julie, can you explain what memory care is for those not in the biz?
Yes, I'm sorry. Memory care would be an individual who is no longer able to get themselves to the dining room or with physical assistance get to the dining room and feed themselves and remember what time of day it is. So Alzheimer's and dementia to a certain level would be considered a memory care resident for us. And that's in a wing that has specialized staff, specialized programs. There's a lot of inroads being made in memory care and programs that help memory to rejuvenate itself and to hold on as long as possible. But that's a specialized portion of our residents.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And at this point, those services are available from you only for residents that are in your facility?
That is correct. That's why I see these other programs being so vital for when we get calls from families of resources that we can perhaps provide to them to help with the socialization of their loved ones, to help with options that are outside their home, but also in a place that is being attended to with the sanitary issues and the safety issues and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much.
Maybe, go ahead. Maybe they're not ready for assisted living yet. They don't know what their options are.
Questions? Comments?
Just real quick.
Yes.
Who is Joan with?
Pardon me?
Who is Joan?
Julie, could
Julie
you?
with? I couldn't hear.
We missed your affiliation right there at the beginning.
Oh, sure. I'm with Legends Senior Living, and we're at the Capitol Ridge location in Topeka, just off of 21st and Wanamaker. Our headquarters is in Wichita, but I represent the facility, the community that's in Topeka.
Thank you. It is wonderful to have so many of you from senior living and organizations that I think are not necessarily at the table when we have these conversations. Deb?
So I was just asking, would we be able, I know when she passed this out, she said there were limited copies. It would be most helpful for us to have these resources sent to us so we know who we can refer, especially those who have been present on the meeting.
I'll ask across the table and also so everybody can hear. Liz, we have a list that, thank you, JAAA and United Way put together of everybody who got invited. If that list could go out, but also the list of who was here so that people can kind of connect the dots and make some calls and do some networking. Okay, Debbie, did you have something?
Susan, does JAAA still have Explore Your Option booklets, or you guys quit doing those?
Well, the state of Kansas actually printed those for us, and they've.
If you can repeat questions when people didn't do it into the mic.
I'm sorry. The question was the Explore Your Options book that approximately 6 or 7 years ago we were putting out, which was a resource listing of all the services for older adults in the area. The state of Kansas used to publish that for us and pay for that. They quit doing that 6 or 7 years ago.
It was a great book.
Yeah, I will say, and I will say on our website, the Jayhawk Area Agency on Aging website, the most current copy is on our website. We keep it updated and current on our website. We aren't able to print copies due to costs, but the information is there still in that same format.
And so your website address, not that people couldn't Google it, but
it's, of course, www.jhawkaa.org. So the letter J, word hawk, 3A's.org.
We can also send that out with all the other materials. Probably send your link straight to that. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be great.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm this, I think, is working as Councilman Alcala and Padilla had intended, but we're getting a lot of information as well as some networking going, and I think that's really good. Anybody else with changes, issues, suggestions? Yes, Janice.
Thank you, Karen. I think this is a phenomenal start. I think, if anything, COVID has kind of forced all of the providers of the different services to come together and explore how we can more serve all of our constituents in a more collaborative manner. And so I want to thank the United Way for starting those Tuesday calls that our organization has been a part of. And I have to say that we have to start thinking about how to keep people at home longer in terms of access to general maintenance and programs that would educate individuals and provide resources to individuals that really need to address deferred maintenance. So the fastest growing population in our community is the aging. We know that. I'm listening to people like Julie and others talk about the increased social needs, which are so important. But if we cannot keep people safer at home during this pandemic, then they don't have options. And our organization saw that firsthand during the initial phasing of the shutdown, where folks were not only safe at home because of environmental concerns and accessibility, but they were lacking access to a lot of their essential and basic needs, which we were able to meet in partnership with the United Way and harvesters and really step out of our box and do things we haven't been able to do. So I just have to put that out there because I have to say that every time. But also to see if I can prompt Brett, who I know is in the room, to talk a little bit about Helpify, because what we've been missing as a community is a way to refer our different clients to one another really succinctly. And it is one of the best tools that we have been able to use right now, and I think we'll continue to be able to use. So if I could just ask Brett to speak on that to everyone that's here, if they don't know that, it is one of the absolute best resources we can use right now.
Okay, but before we let Brett talk, you have talked about something that you actually have a program in, so just let's make sure people know what Habitat does and talk about your Aging in Place program.
Sure. We have an Aging in Place program that is a program that is designed to keep homeowners. We do not work with renters. to keep low-income and moderate-income homeowners over the age of 55 in their homes through basic to moderate to sometimes critical home repairs. It's a holistic program that engages not only a construction staff member, but a family services individual through our organization, which is currently me because we have that vacant, where we assess the other social determinants of health and the needs of the individual, like food, socialization, what their support networks are, and really connect them. Oftentimes, home is one piece of the key of living with autonomy, dignity, and respect. Right pre-COVID, we were starting a maintenance series just aimed at those that were aging, that is targeted to really teach individuals how to access resources and perform some preventative maintenance regardless of their ability, access, just things that can keep them safer. We had that scheduled with LULAC, and then we were shut down. So we're working on turning some of that programs to virtual, and also creating a space in our offices that people can come and learn some of that on. But our Aging in Place program never shut down, and we're receiving 80 to 100 requests a week right now for assistance, and our staff is 4 people. So the need is great. It is out there, and it is increasing.
Thank you. Now we'll send it to Brett.
Yeah, thank you, Janice. Those who have been in those COVID-19 response and coordination meetings, by the way, if you're not in those meetings and you want to be in those meetings, every Tuesday at 3. We took this last Tuesday off, even though it wasn't Labor Day, to celebrate labor. So we did take that day off. But if you do want to be a part of that, send me an email. And it is an open link. It's an open meeting link. So you can forward to folks if you would like to be a part of that. So what Janice alluded to was Healthify. And she was also talking about in their Aging in Place program how they're addressing the social determinants of health. So I'll just talk about that briefly. That is a buzz phrase that probably many of you are familiar with, maybe some are not. The way I describe social determinants of health, I'm not a public health professional, so the way I talk about it is everything that affects health outside the doctor's office. So all of those things that affect an individual's health outside of acute care. So you think of things like housing, transportation, energy, food, built environment, a whole host of things. So through a partnership with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Kansas about 2.5 years ago, we started conversations with Healthify. Healthify is a social determinants of health platform. The idea with Healthify is rather simple. It is an intelligence platform that allows organizations to make referrals to one another and close that referral loop. So oftentimes when I go to contract meetings, when we were doing our contract meetings in person for United Way, and I would go and we would sit down with the executive directors and sign contracts, we would have conversations, and one of the things I would ask about is referrals. I'd say, how are you getting referrals and how are you tracking referrals? And they would say, well, I have it written down on a legal pad, and this person from this agency calls me, and we are able to take care of that. Sometimes people come through our doors and we don't know where they've come from. So the idea with Healthify is that we are able to track data on the back end in an aggregated way to see where people are coming into, for example, a social services system, and to track their journey, if you will. What needs they are seeking out, where they're coming into the system, where they're exiting the system, and then it allows us to be able to look at things like assets in our community. So one of the things that we've done today, which I think is incredibly helpful, is begin to map all of the assets in our in our community, not necessarily on a Topeka map, but we've been talking about the different senior services, senior centers, and then those who are also providing senior services. Once you're able to do that, then you can start looking at, as many of you were mentioning, looking at the gaps. How do we address the needs? How do we address those gaps? So on that back end, we can do something simple like a gap analysis. And the idea here is that we're connecting partners who often are non-traditional and who wouldn't be connecting with one another. And Janice alluded to that. Nikki, who has been on those calls from Habitat, has been great about reaching out to partners that maybe Habitat wasn't working with before. Habitat for a while got into the food business. So did Community Action. So did a whole host of folks in this room. Everybody got in the food biz because they had to. And as we moved out of the crisis response mode to more of a collaboration mode, and we got to know one another, then all of a sudden we started to lean into those relationships. So that Habitat, for example, wasn't necessarily having to do direct food service, or Community Action wasn't, or other organizations. They could develop those contacts with places like Harvesters, now through Operation Food Secure at Topeka Rescue Mission with their 30-plus partners, and ways to be able to do that. We can formalize that in a system like Healthify, and it helps solidify those relationships and also gives us really great data on the back end. You don't fill out a report, you just use it. And then every month you get a report. And that report tells you not only about your agency, but also gives you a sense of the landscape in the community. And that's great data for things like grant applications, but also really helps us as a community to take a look at the needs with really hard data. We all have great stories, and we need the great stories, and we need the hard data to be able to not only marshal those resources, but also make sure that we are organizing our community and our systems in a way that are putting our clients at the center. And I think that's one of the real benefits of Healthify. So we currently have 10 partners in that pilot, and are very excited about what that's looking like. The other good thing, I'll be honest here, Blue Cross is paying for it. And when we have a public-private partnership like that, we should all jump on board. They are paying for that, especially as an insurer who wants to be able to see community health improve. And obviously, as an insurer, that drives down their costs. So if they can find tools like this that improve health outcomes in communities, it helps them, it helps us, and it's a win-win. So if you want to know more about Healthify, I'm happy to talk about it, as you can tell.
Thank you for that, and that's an exciting model, and even back to the subject of the day in terms of senior services, I'm sure that seniors are included, but perhaps that's not a theme that's running through the Healthify network right now, but we've uncovered ways to network and perhaps build on community assets that we have in a way more targeted towards seniors today as well. Are there other stories, questions, challenges to put out? Again, as the council committee, we're honored to host this. We just wanted to learn and provide a setting for some exchange. Hopefully this will continue, maybe under the auspices of JAAA and United Way on their own or jointly. Councilman.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask a question. I don't want us to get started in a whole long conversation about it, but it occurred to me while we were listening to the presentations, and I appreciate the time you've all taken to come here and the information you've shared. It's been very enlightening, I think. I know from serving on the committee beforehand, as the chair said previously, I don't know that this much conversation was held before we started looking at requests for funding, and I think this would have been even more helpful. So I think this is a very good idea. And transportation is something that I'm interested in, obviously, just like the other night at JADO, supporting workforce transportation. Transportation is extremely important to this community, but it's costly to this community. And one of the things I wanted to ask is, and I don't need for everybody to come out and give me their process, but in considering the transportation that you provide for your participants, I imagine there's kind of a intake process. I mean, I come in, I say I need this transportation. Do you ask me why I have that need? Do I have other resources? Do I have family members that could take me? Do I have a granddaughter or grandson that drives that could take me? I mean, what I'm getting to is I want to be able to provide the resources to those people who are really desperately in need of that service and don't have any other recourse but to rely upon the senior centers and others to give them those rides for medical treatment and others that otherwise they just would not have the chance to do. Because I know sometimes, and maybe this is kind of like, I don't want it to sound heartless, but maybe it's easier for some people to say, if I leave them at the senior center, they'll take care of it, or have the senior center take care of it, and I can take that off of my list of things to do, when rather they could do it if given a little more effort and a support maybe, but to try and look at our costs, because as they rise, obviously the cost to provide those funds will rise, and it'll take away from other things that the senior centers need. So I just want to make sure that in providing those services, that they are being given with some real thought as to how badly does Mike Padilla or anybody else need that resource. Now, if I needed it right now, I'll use myself for example. I've got other people that can take me. I could ask for that, but I've got other people who can take me if I really work at it and work at the schedule. And I'm hoping that the citizens who have been able to take advantage of all these resources really give that some thought so that our services don't go away, and try to help us continue to provide those resources, but in a way that really better utilizes the money that we have available. And so that's one thing I'm really thinking about with regards to transportation.
Could I speak to that? Just
if you would come to the mic, you can speak about it.
And then I have
I will take any chance to take this mask off I can get.
And then, Chair, I have a follow-up after Mike finishes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So, Mike, I'd like to speak to that. We do not ask at LULAC if they've got other transportation, because actually the senior population that we see, and you probably know this as well, in interaction in the community, they're very humble. They're not going to ask you for anything unless they absolutely need it. Whether it's food, whether it's somebody to refer to pay their light bill in the summer months. I mean, they grew up in the era of not asking anybody and making do with what they've got. So it has to be a chemo treatment, a dialysis treatment, and they've explored every other option at LULAC. And maybe I should ask that, but I can pretty much tell it when they walk in the door or when they call me and the desperation that if they don't get to dialysis, what are they going to do? If they don't get to their cancer treatment, what are they going to do? I'm not the judgment maker of that. I don't ever want to be put in a position, although I understand that funding is very limited, but I also understand being a daughter of an elderly mom, that one doctor's appointment leads to 15 more. And therefore, I could take off work, but there's still 15 more follow-ups with 15 more doctors. And so working adult children struggle to try to keep up with that. Senior centers try, and they struggle to keep up with that. And the need is tremendous out there for medical transportation, just in the Topeka community alone. I get calls for people needing transportation to KU Med Center. I don't have a clue what those folks do. But we currently provide to the folks that come to the senior center. That was a decision that we made a couple of years ago because it wasn't cost effective for us to take one person all the way across town to Urish. And so if they're coming to the senior center, if we're able to load up 2 or 3 and take them to Cotton O'Neill, then we're able to do that. But that's how we've had to do it because we were filling $100 worth of gas in our bus and running one person clear across town and sometimes picking up overflow of people that were calling us after hours because we're open full time and asking us to come pick them up because they did not get picked up. So that being said, it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem. We now have a criteria that the LULAC board helped put together for a kind of a little pre-screening process for people who do come to the senior center. So initially, when they come, we go through a checklist. Will you be needing medical transportation? Well, yes, of course they're going to need it. I mean, that's just a given. They're elderly and your health starts failing. So I can answer on our part for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may, Chair.
Keep going, and you've got another person open up to answer for you.
A lot of our medical referrals come through caseworkers, and so those people have limited to no other options, and the available private options are cost prohibitive, and that's why they're calling us. So our screening process is really just a matter of them being whatever AAA has provided us with the, so it's not income-based or anything like that. It's just the fact that they need the ride and we're available to take them. We ask for a donation, but we don't charge a fare. And so that's why we get a lot of our rides, because the private ones would be $40 away. So we have had some people who like the wife is home and the husband needs dialysis and she's actually traveled with him, but she was elderly as well, and so trying to lift the wheelchair was really strenuous on her personally. And we carried them for years, and they recently relocated their children were in Texas, and then he died within a month of moving. So, but we don't really ask, do you have other resources? Is this, if we refer them if we can't within our schedule.
Thank you. Mike?
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to ask the question. It sounds heartless, but you have to ask those questions because otherwise people will question whether or not the need is real or if it's over-exaggerated. And so when it comes time to allot monies for those resources, people will suggest, well, they'll just have to find another way. I've heard that on more than one occasion for a number of reasons when it comes to transportation in the city. And so when we're considering that as a council and we're looking at the fundings that we do allow for these kinds of services, I think we have to have that realization that we've reached this point where there is just not another way to provide these resources to those who are in need. So it sounds like a tough question, but I think it's one that needs to be asked so that for those people who might wonder whether or not it's actually necessary. So I thank you for your comments. And the final thing I wanted to bring up is that I just wanted to say that it's very clear to me, and it has been for some time, that the people involved with the care of our senior citizens in the city of Topeka are really committed and are compassionate about the services that they provide. You can hear it just in the testimony. And I am very grateful to live in a community that has that kind of concern and have people professionally and volunteers and students from schools who feel that there is a place for them to help provide those resources for our senior citizens. I don't know if any of you have taken the Go Topeka or Momentum 2022 community survey, but there are some questions in there about about senior services and the like, and is Topeka a good place for senior citizens to retire to? Is it a good place for senior citizens? I think it is. I think that there is a growing need for even more of those services. So I commend you for all of the work that you've done throughout the years. I really thank you for thinking of the different innovative ways to provide those resources. And it's something that I think our city should be proud of and talk about with some pride more often. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman.
Thank you, Chair. I would have a tendency to agree with Kathy Vito at LULAC. I think there's a lot of pride involved in asking for help. I think that seniors are an incredibly vulnerable sector of our community. And I think that while Mike's question has some validity to it, I think that if we start putting processes in place where we're asking numerous questions about, well, is there not someone else that can take you? There might be somebody that can take them, but as Kathy stated, they may not be in the capacity, nor may they want to get involved that deeply with the elders that are aging within their households or in their family systems. And I think that elders themselves are very cognizant of that. They're very cognizant about how much care is wanting to be extended to them or not extended to them within their own families. They're very cognizant of the strain that caring for them that can create and can cause upheaval in the family systems. So to put questions in place that are saying, maybe is it really needed? Is there other sources, other folks that can take you, other methods that you can use of transportation? I think that has to be looked at if that is even going to happen, in a way that is filled with compassion and not anything that has to do with shame or putting family system dynamics into place that we have no business pressuring into. But I know that the question is well-intentioned, but I look to folks like Kathy Viton and the others that run the senior centers that have the up-close and personal engagement with these folks. And I trust that is just a realm that we should always take care and walk very, very lightly in. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Wrap up?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, do you want to? Yeah, we'll
come on up.
One more.
Ronnie Padilla, and I'm with LULAC. I just had one question for all of the senior centers and all of the other groups that are dealing with seniors. Actually, two questions. Number one, when you have your seniors come to your locations, have you talked to them about making sure that their census is filled out? Number one. And number two, they can still vote. So have you asked them, are they registered to vote? So those are my two questions. Thank you.
Can we get...
I do have a comment on the transportation thing.
Come on.
Okay. I've been with Pappins for many years, more than I want to say, really. But no, truthfully, this is my 24th year. We have discussed, JAAA and CRC and different organizations have discussed transportation for years and years. One of the things is we used to have, Pappins used to have a volunteer program that we used to do transportation. I don't know if you were there during that time or remember that. One of the issues with your answer or your question is that families and other people that would like to, is there other resources? Insurance. Insurance is the big major thing that a lot of people and a lot of churches and a lot of different other people don't volunteer to do that because they don't want that liability. So when it comes to things like that, we've crossed those lines before and researched that and to try to figure out ways to cut cost, to provide more services for our seniors, and we always come up with almost the same thing, is it's a liability. we tried partnership with churches over the years to do some of those services. And now it was a big issue with that also. So that's something else you need to kind of remember too, is what are the liabilities? Where with the senior centers, we do have the insurance for that. It is high, it is expensive, but we do those kinds of things. So I just wanted to kind of
thank you.
Let you know that these questions have been crossed before, many years.
Thank you. And I don't assume that this is something new that's been asked, but I'm not asking in relation to asking people who might take on that responsibility and then incur that liability issue. I'm talking about family members who have insurance or should have insurance on their car when they take their mother or father, aunt, uncle, whoever to those services. That's what I'm looking at is some, I guess, I know I donate to LULAC and have done for years, and I know others do. And that's one of the reasons I used to designate my contribution to that group, because I knew it provided certain services. So my encouragement is for people who can, if they can't, for some reason or other, take their loved one to a service, but they know that they're using the services at LULAC, contribute to that effort so that LULAC can continue their efforts and everybody else can. Because there comes a time when that money runs out. And if you can contribute at least a little bit every year, it helps that overall budget. And that's where my direction is going, not in passing off the responsibility to some other person or other organization that would assume the liability. I'm asking for people to support those services in their community by donating what they can, when they can, to help provide those services.
Thank you. Brett?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I will say as we're wrapping up here is, who said it? So Kathy, you said that one doctor's appointment leads to another, leads to another, leads to 15. So one of the things that I'm wanting to think about, and by the way, I want to do this again with that second question about what would an ideal senior services system look like in our community. So my boss is up there on the screen. I'm committing to one more thing, but this is important. When that comes up, when someone mentions that, it makes me think who's not at the table. And who's not at the table right now are primary care. Stormont Vale Health has is building Healthify as a referral system onto Epic, their electronic medical record system. And we will be working to sort of roll that out through that pilot. But as I think about that, potentially, when we think about lack of resources, when we think about not enough money, when we think about not enough staff, if we can get up a little higher in this conversation and think about systems and say, what might it be like if schedulers of doctor's appointments were in this conversation? And physicians and clinics were in this conversation. Now we start talking about a system, and we get up above our programs, and we start thinking, what would it be like to begin to have those programs, direct service providers, in alignment, and think about who came before them and who comes after them. My guess is schedulers aren't thinking about this because they're not. They're looking at a calendar and they're trying to figure it out. But if we have more people in the room and you begin to think about where someone came from, where they were in the process before they got to you, and then an awareness of where they are after, I think maybe that can at least be part of that conversation. So as we look ahead to what I hope will be another gathering like this, and we ask that question, what does an ideal senior services system look like, or what does an ideal senior services community look like? We can begin to think about those types of things. And so and in preparation for that, I want you to be thinking about those pieces. there were a lot of notes taken today. I think it would be a good idea for us to put these together and get these comments to folks, not only in terms of networking with the list, with notes, with the resource on JAAA's site, but also in preparation for that next conversation.
Brent?
Yes.
I have a suggestion, and I don't know if it will fly or not, but perhaps consider a one-day symposium. I mean, I think that could really frame, two or three specific things that you want to talk about, keep it online and on point, and I think a symposium might be a really good idea, but a symposium with the goal of moving on what we're learning, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, do you have anything to say to wrap up?
Not a whole lot. I really appreciate all the comments, and thank you, the 3 senior centers, because right now, with our Older Americans Act funding, they are one of our funding recipients, so this was very helpful to hear the challenges and the struggles, and I appreciate, too, hearing from Sheltered Living, or excuse me, SLI, I apologize, regarding the challenges folks with IDD face with aging. My background is with IDD, and I worked for Sheltered Living when it was Sheltered Living, so I was aware of that, but I appreciate that being brought up in this group as well, because that's challenges we need to expand on in addition to. So, thank you.
Anything else from the committee members to wrap up? No? Well, we did do some crossover. That I heard, for instance, people saying they needed professional help for folks at the centers, and we heard at least one provider offer that. I would mention, too, that the council has also been concerned about broadband services in the community. I also happen to chair the City Council's Public Health and Safety Committee, which meets on Monday afternoon from 3 to 5, and at the request of Councilman Dobler, we will be having a discussion about broadband services in Topeka, if anybody wants to tune in on that as well. We really feel like, well, I'll speak for myself, but as the city, because we fund just a small piece of social services, we felt like we needed to at least invite the elephant, to have a better picture of what all was happening. But we appreciate so much what all you are doing, and people do follow what we're doing. For instance, us trying to follow what's happening with broadband as well, though it's not our issue at all, except to let people put posts up along the streets and, approve their franchise arrangements. That's it. So thank you for helping us better understand. Thank you for all that you're doing with one another. We'll see, and I think we're all 3 of us are interested in this, but if United Way and JAAA are going to pick up the lead in doing this next, is that right? So for this next session, we hope to get invited, and we will get you the materials that you asked for between us out shortly in terms of the updated list that, thank you very much, Brett and Susan did, as well as the attendance list for today. Thank you, and we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Voter mail by ballot.
Thank you, Susan.
Voter mail by ballot. Email.